Previously on Midnight Confessions with Ava. I walked into the studio late at night, half dead from biomed and caffeine, and sat under that annoying red on-air light, pretending I had my life together, while the whole of London whispered its secrets at me. I had the usual chaos, the girl with the crush who thought she was just a notebook with legs, the guy with the neighbour and the mystery furniture upstairs, all the normal late-night problems you lot throw at me. And then he called. A man with a calm voice who told me to call him Midnight, who said my name like he had been practicing it, who knew I tap my pen on the desk when I am thinking, and that I say goodnight to my nan every Sunday, even when I try to rush it. He told me he had been listening to my show for a while, that he liked hearing other people's noise because it made his own loneliness feel less heavy. And he turned my questions straight back on me in a way no one ever has live. He told me I sounded lonelier than I admitted, that I talked like someone who had been through everything when really I was a 21-year-old student hiding from my own love life in a box full of microphones. I flirted badly, you laughed at me, and just when I thought I had him pegged as another anonymous voice on an anonymous line, he dropped the sentence that made my heart stop. You look different this morning on the Jubilee line. The red scarf suited you. I never talk about my commute. I never mention my route. I do not post train selfies. And yet he described me exactly as I had been that morning. Coffee in my left hand, pen tapping the lid, laughing at something on my phone. I got through the rest of the show somehow, pretending I was fine, pretending my chest was not full of static. Then I went home, lay in bed and replayed the call until I could recite his words back to myself in the dark. I wrote rules for him in my notes app. Rules for midnight. No more surprise train commentary. Every real question he asked me, I would ask one back. And absolutely no falling for a voice. I was just about to give in sleep when my phone buzzed with a system notification from the station. New internal voice message received. 1 34-second clip from external line, no caller ID. I opened it, heard him say, "This is for you, not for the show." Heard him dare me to break at least one of my own rules, and then I did the stupid thing and tapped the details button. The source was not some anonymous outside number. It was Studio 3 internal booth, 2 doors down from my own studio in the same corridor, the room I walk past every single night without really thinking. Midnight was not just a voice in the city anymore. He had been in my building, breathing the same recycled air, listening through the same walls, closer than I ever realized. I sat there in my bed with my phone on my chest, staring at that little word, Studio 3, and knowing I was already more attached than any of my rules allowed. And that is exactly where I left you, thumb hovering over a second message from him, a new file from Studio 3, only 12 seconds long, just enough time to say something I was definitely not ready for. So if you are still with me, if you have your headphones in and the lights low, come back into that moment with me now. Back into my room, phone in my hand, eyes on that tiny glowing triangle on the screen. This is night 2 of Midnight Confessions, and this is what happened when I pressed play. Then I look at the tiny glowing triangle on the screen, at the little word Studio 3 underneath it, and I realize there is no universe where I am going to be able to sleep without knowing what he decided to say to me from 2 doors down. My thumb presses down, the icon changes, and the very first fraction of a sound hits my ear before I even consciously hear his voice. There is a small hiss, then him, closer than before, like he has stepped right up to my ear through the wire. "You really should be asleep by now, Ava," he says, and hearing my name in that tone makes every muscle in my body tighten. He does not say hello, he does not introduce himself, he just goes straight in like we are already mid-conversation and I am the one who is late. "You checked the details, did you not?" he goes on, and there is a little pause that makes me picture the exact moment he knows I have seen Studio 3 on my screen. "I told you I was closer than you thought when you left tonight," he says. "You walked past the door. You pushed it open with your shoulder. You did that little half sigh you always do when the corridor is empty. My breath catches, because I did all of that, and now I know, without question, that he watched me leave. That he saw me in that dull yellow light, scarf half off, makeup smudged, not the polished version people imagine when they hear me. I am not trying to scare you, he adds quickly, like he can hear the way my breathing has changed even through a recording. I just wanted you to know I was not lying when I said you make it very easy to listen. There is the tiniest hint of humour there, just enough to stop it tipping fully into creepy, and then he drops his voice into something softer. You sound different when you are off air, he says. I heard you laugh in the corridor once, ages ago, before you ever took my call, and I have been stuck with that sound in my head ever since. My stomach flips because I cannot even remember what he is talking about. Some random night, some stupid joke from Stephen, or a text from Mia, but he has been carrying that tiny moment around like a stolen photograph. You do not need to answer this, he finishes. I just wanted you to know I am not as far away as the line makes me sound. There is a breath, half laugh, half exhale, and then the message ends, the line goes dead, and I am left staring at my own reflection in the black screen. For a while I just sit there, in the dark. The duvet tangled around my legs, heart hammering so hard it feels like it is shaking the mattress. Replaying his words over and over in my head. He heard me laugh in the corridor. He saw me push the studio door with my shoulder. He watched me leave, and I had no idea. I was just another girl dragging her bag home at 3 a.m, thinking no one was looking. Part of me wants to throw my phone across the room, block every system message, march into the station tomorrow and demand to know exactly who had Studio 3, show them this message and say, explain him. The bigger part, the part I do not like to admit to myself, is warm and reckless and something that feels dangerously close to thrilled. You are an idiot, I whisper to myself, rolling back onto my pillow, phone pressed against my chest like it is part of my ribcage. You wrote rules for this man, and you are already ignoring the one about not letting him crawl under your skin. Somewhere between that thought and my next breath, sleep finally grabs me, full of trains and studio lights, and a faceless man leaning in a doorway watching me pass. The next day, sunlight is too bright and the lecture hall is too loud, and I am absolutely no use to anyone at university. I sit in a biomed lecture, staring at a slide about cell membranes, while my head plays a completely different film of midnight saying, I have been stuck with that sound in my head ever since. The professor asks a question and I answer on autopilot, my mouth supplying the right words while my brain is busy replaying the shape of his sentences, the timing of his pauses. After the lecture, Mia loops her arm through mine, cheeks pink from the cold, eyeliner perfect, and drags me towards the coffee shop on campus. You look like you got hit by a bus, she says nicely. Radio keeping you up too late again? Or is there finally a man involved? I snort and tell her there is definitely no man, which is technically true and technically the worst lie I have told all week. Emily is already at a table, camera on the chair next to her, fingers wrapped round a mug, eyes sharp the way they always are when she is watching people. You were off your game today, she tells me as I sit. You stared at the same page for 10 minutes. I timed it. I tell her she needs better hobbies and pretend I am just tired, that the late nights are catching up with me, that biomed and radio are fighting for space in my skull. I do not tell them that the actual problem is one specific male voice that lives in the headphones in my head, that I am catching myself watching strangers' mouths on the tube, trying to match them to a sound I have only ever heard in the dark. Nan texts me while we are there, asking if I slept, asking if the late show is worth it, adding 3 heart emojis in a row, and I send back that I am fine, that I love her, that I will call tonight if I can. I do not mention Studio 3, or internal messages, or the fact that some anonymous man sent me audio from 2 doors down, and my first instinct was not to report him. It was to play it twice. By the time evening rolls around, my body is tired, but my nerves are practically buzzing for the walk into the station, like my feet already know something is going to happen. I get there earlier than usual, scarf tight around my neck, bag heavier than it should be, and as I swipe in at the front desk, I can hear the distant thud of some daytime show still going, cheerful voices echoing through the lobby. The lift doors are just starting to close when I slip my hand between them and they jolt back open with a little mechanical sigh. There are two people inside, a woman from sales I recognise by her perfume, and a man in a suit, head slightly bowed as he looks at his phone. I step in, press the button for my floor on instinct, and the man's thumb flicks up and presses the same one a split second after mine, like he knew what I was going to choose. "You always this early," he says, casual, eyes still on his screen, and those 4 words hit me like a hand between my shoulder blades. The lift hums as it starts to move, and I feel the air shrink around us, the faint smell of coffee and cologne and stale station carpet rising up in the confined space. I glance sideways just enough to see the line of his jaw, the stubble on his cheek, the way his mouth quirks a tiny bit at the corner, like he is laughing at something unsaid. "Habit," I say, swallowing, trying to sound normal. Night shows do not run themselves. The woman from sales gets off on the second floor, murmurs a quick, "See you," and then it is just me and him, doors sliding shut again, metal box suddenly feeling far too small for the amount of electricity in my skin. The lift jolts slightly as it passes another floor, and my shoulder brushes his arm. Just a light touch through layers of fabric, but my whole body overreacts, nerves lighting up like someone has plugged me straight into the mains. "Long night," he says quietly, finally glancing up, eyes catching mine for the briefest heartbeat. And I feel something low in my stomach twist in recognition I cannot logically justify. His voice is not identical to the way it sounds through the studio headphones. There is more room around it, more air, but there is a rhythm that feels horribly familiar. The way he leans on certain syllables, the soft smile that sits behind the words. "Always," I manage, and I look away too quickly, suddenly obsessed with the floor numbers lighting up in orange above the doors, like if I stare at them hard enough, I will not have to deal with the fact my heart is doing gymnastics. When we reach my floor, the doors slide open with their usual tired sigh, and I step out automatically, the corridor stretching ahead under that ugly yellow light. "Have a good show," he says as the doors start to close, and when I turn back, he is watching me with that same tiny half smile, eyes unreadable, hand jammed in his pocket like he is trying very hard not to do anything more. The doors shut between us, and the lift carries him up one more floor, to the level where Studio 3 sits. And I just stand there for a second, breathing too fast, feeling the ghost of his sleeve against my shoulder. "It might not be him," I mutter to myself as I walk down the corridor towards my own studio. You do not own the phrase, "you always this early." People are allowed to have similar voices. Calm down. But the part of me that writes rules for strangers and presses play on messages from 2 doors down is not calm. It is convinced, with no real evidence, that I have just shared a metal box with the man who sent me red scarf compliments and corridor confessions. Once I'm in my studio with the door shut and the red light waiting to be switched on, I try to shake him out of my system by doing what I always do: work. I put my headphones on, I tap my pen on the desk, I smile into the mic like I have not just had my entire nervous system rewired by a 30-second lift ride. "Good night, troublemakers," I say. "This is Midnight Confessions. I am Ava, and tonight I am awake earlier than my common sense again, so you might as well keep me company." The first caller is light, easy, a girl gossiping about a boy in her building who keeps accidentally leaving his parcels at her door, and I laugh, I tease, I tell her to either open the door properly or stop flirting through cardboard. The second is heavier, someone whispering about a breakup they have not told their family about yet, and I soften, I listen, I tell them the thing I always tell people, that pain is not permanent, even when it feels like it has built a house in your chest. Between callers, while a track runs low under my voice, I find myself talking directly to you lot about secrets that never make it to air, about the messages that land in my inbox at stupid hours, the ones that start with, "Do not read this on the show, this is just for you." I hear myself saying, "Some confessions are too raw to share with anyone else." And I know I am talking about him, about Studio 3, about the way my phone felt too heavy in my hand last night, like it was full of someone else's heartbeat. And right on cue, as if the universe has decided to lean in on the bit, one of the lines flickers with that familiar unknown, and my stomach does that stupid twist again. Stephen points at it through the glass, eyebrows up, and I nod like this is just another call, nothing special, totally fine, while my fingers are slightly unsteady on the fader. "Line 1, you are live with Ava," I say. "What is keeping you up tonight?" There is a split second of silence, then his voice slides into my headphones, exactly where it belongs and absolutely not where my rules wanted it. Warm and steady. "You always this early," he says, same rhythm, same smile tucked into the words, and the floor might as well drop out from under my chair. I know instantly it is him. The man from the lift, the man from the corridor, the man from Studio 3, all layered on top of the man in my head, and every part of me goes very still. "Habit," I reply, borrowing my own line from earlier, trying to keep my voice smooth for the listeners. Long nights, bad decisions, you know how it is. There is a tiny on his side, low and pleased, like he has just watched me step onto a chessboard I did not realise we were playing on. "I do know how it is," he says. "Lifts that shake too much, corridors that echo, studios that are closer together than people think." My hand tightens around my pen and I lean forward, elbows on the desk, as if getting physically closer to the microphone is going to help me pin him down. "So, Midnight," I say, putting his chosen name out there very deliberately, "are you finally going to tell me why you have taken such a sudden interest in my transport choices and my building layout?" "Maybe I just like the way you look when you think no one is paying attention," he replies, and my mouth goes dry because that is exactly the point. He likes the unguarded version, the off-air version, the girl in the lift chewing the inside of her cheek and pretending she does not notice his eyes. I remind myself there are people listening, that this is not just the two of us in a small room, that every question I ask is going out to whoever has insomnia or bad Wi-Fi tonight. "You know this is live, right?" I say, aiming for light. "If you are going to be weird, you are going to be weird in front of the whole of London." "Oh, I am aware," he answers, "but you are the only one who knows I was in your lift, and you are the only one who checked where my message came from, so really, this is just between us." There is something so intimate in the way he says "between us" that my chest actually aches, and I hate that my body is betraying me over somebody whose full name I do not even know. "You are very confident," I tell him, "for someone hiding behind an alias and a studio door." "I am not hiding," he says calmly. "I am just pacing myself." "Pacing yourself for what?" I ask, knowing I am walking straight into whatever line he has queued up, unable to stop myself. "For when you are ready to look at me properly," he answers, voice dropping just enough that it feels like a hand on my wrist, and not see me as just another voice. There is a beat of silence, where every sound in the studio seems louder. The hum of the aircon, the faint click of Stephen's keyboard, my own pulse in my ears. And I know the listeners can feel it too, that collective lean in. I breathe out slowly and reach for humour because it is the only thing that keeps me from melting straight through the chair. "You are assuming I want to look at you at all," I say. "For all I know, you are some 70-year-old tech guy with a beard down to his knees and a collection of novelty mugs." He laughs at that. And it is a real laugh, not the polished one from the message, and my toes actually curl in my shoes, because it does things to me I do not want to examine on air. "You will get to decide if the reality matches the voice," he says. just not yet. So you are planning on sticking around then? I ask, already knowing the answer, fingers drumming quietly on the desk. I told you, he replies. I am pacing myself. We talk for longer than we should, skirts of the topic fanning out around safer ground, the way the city feels at 3 a.m, the weird comfort of regular strangers, the small rituals we build to keep ourselves from falling apart. At one point, he casually mentions the exact song that was playing on the lobby speakers when we stepped into the lift. A throwaway detail that confirms beyond any doubt he was the man in that small metal box with me, close enough to feel me tense when the floor jolted. I can feel the listenership leaning forward as we dance around each other, never quite saying it outright. Me avoiding describing his face, him avoiding anything that would give him away to anyone but me. Eventually, the clock drags us towards the news, towards ads and weather and reality, and I have to start wrapping it up, even though every greedy part of me wants to keep him on the line until the sun comes up. We have to leave it there for tonight, I tell him. Somehow the world still expects to hear about traffic and politics. I will not keep you from your important work, he says, and I can hear the smile again. But, Ava... Yes, Midnight, I say, trying not to sound like I am hanging off the edge of my own name. Next time we share a lift, he says, I want you to know it is me. My throat goes dry, and I am suddenly aware that my nails are digging little crescents into the skin of my palm. You planning a schedule around that? I manage. Or are we letting fate do the heavy lifting? Consider it a countdown, he answers softly. By the 5th night, I do not want to be a voice on the line anymore, Ava. I want to be in the room. The way he says "in the room" sends a flush straight to my cheeks, and I am very grateful no one can see me. We will see if you make it that far, I say, aiming for teasing and landing somewhere much closer to breathless. We will, he says, like it is a promise, and then the line clicks, leaving me with silence and the faint echo of his last words. I throw us into the news, hit the music, pull the fader down, and then finally allow myself to drop my head into my hands for half a second, while the headlines cover the way my chest is still heaving. I get through the rest of the shift by muscle memory, reading, reacting, letting my radio voice carry me across the hours until I can sign off and kill the red light. By the time I walk out of the building, the sky is bruised blue and grey again, the streets damp, the air cold, and the memory of his 5th night promise is looping in the back of my brain like an advert jingle I cannot shake. The bus ride home feels slower than usual, every stop dragging, every streetlight smearing across the window like someone is smudging the city with their thumb. When I finally reach my front door and push it open, I am expecting the usual mess. The shoes, the mugs, the half-dead plant Emily refuses to admit she killed. I am not expecting the smell. It hits me before I turn the light on. Thick and sweet and unmistakable. Roses. So many roses that the whole hallway smells like the inside of a florist's chest. I flick the switch and just stop, because sitting on the little hallway table under the mirror is a bouquet so huge it looks like it should have its own postcode. Deep red roses packed so tightly together they barely have space to breathe. There is a card tucked into the stems, white against the red, no name on the front, just my flat number in quick black ink. My heart starts sprinting again as I step closer, fingers already knowing what they are going to find before my brain catches up. The card is small, simple, folded once. Inside, in the same handwriting, there are only 2 lines. For the girl in the red scarf, it says, "You sounded tired tonight. Thought you might need something alive in your hallway." No signature, no name, nothing. But he might as well have written midnight in letters 10 inches high, because no one else in my world talks about me like that. I bring the bouquet up to my face and the smell hits me properly, rich and heady, and I feel something in my chest unclench just a little, like I've been holding my breath since the lift, and this is the first time I am allowed to inhale. I laugh once, half shocked, half giddy, standing there in my hallway at nearly 4 in the morning, drowning in flowers from a man I barely know and already cannot stop thinking about. You are trouble, I tell the roses, because talking to them is safer than admitting it out loud about him. I carry them into my room, find a ridiculous assortment of jugs and vases to split them into, fill whatever I can with water from the bathroom sink until every surface has a burst of red on it. My room smells like a perfume advert now, like something out of a film where girls make good choices and fall in love with men whose real names they know, and I sit on the edge of my bed staring at the card like it might grow extra words if I wait long enough. My phone is on the bedside table, face up, screen dark, and for once I do not reach for the replay of the show or the inbox. Instead, I open the station app, thumb moving almost of its own accord to the same internal messaging system he used, the one that has suddenly stopped feeling like a boring admin tool and started feeling like a secret doorway. I find his last message from Studio 3, the one I listened to in bed, and there, sitting next to it like a little dare, is the reply option. I tap it before I can talk myself out of it, and a new message window opens. Response to external line, Studio 3, my own name underneath, cursor blinking like a heartbeat. For a few seconds I just stare at the empty text box. Then I type, delete, type again, because apparently I have forgotten how to string a sentence together when it is not being broadcast to thousands of people. Thank you for the roses, I write eventually. They are ridiculous and perfect, and my flatmates think I have finally acquired a love life. I pause, then add, if you are going to keep sending things to my door, it would be easier if you had my actual details and not just my corridor. My fingers hover over the screen for a long moment before I do the reckless thing I have been inching towards all night. I type my private contact into the box, my real number, the one only a handful of people have, the one I have never given to anyone I met through the show, not ever. Use this if you want to talk without the red light on, I add. But if you turn out to be a complete mistake, I reserve the right to block you and pretend this never happened. My thumb hovers over send, my heart hammering, brain screaming every warning it knows, rules flashing in neon behind my eyelids. I do not fall for a voice, I say out loud, just to have the words in the air between me and the screen. Then I hit send anyway. The message whooshes off into the system, tiny and irreversible, and for a second, nothing happens. The app just snaps back to the inbox like I have done something completely ordinary. I lock my phone, drop it on the duvet next to me, and fall back onto the pillows, laughing at myself, and also slightly wanting to be sick. You have officially lost it, Ava, I tell the ceiling. You have just handed your number to a man whose face you could not pick out of a lineup. The room is quiet except for my own breathing and the distant hum of pipes in the wall. I close my eyes, trying to convince myself that nothing is going to happen tonight, that he is probably still in Studio 3, that the message will sit in some digital queue until morning, that by then I will have regained enough sense to change my number and move to another planet. My phone buzzes against my hip. I freeze. Eyes snapping open, heart thudding so hard it almost hurts. The screen lights up with a notification, not from the station app this time, but from my actual messages, the one with my name at the top and my private contacts underneath. One new text from an unknown number. I stare at it for a second, lungs refusing to fill, then drag my thumb up to unlock the screen. The message preview sits there, simple, black letters on white. Red suits you, it reads. But I think you look even better surrounded by roses. My whole body goes hot and cold at the same time, because now he is not just a voice on the line or a file in an app or a man in a lift. Now he is in my phone, in my hallway, in my room, and we both know there is absolutely no way back to the version of my life where I did not answer midnight when he called.